And you've been listening live to a press conference there from the chief of police from the campus of the University of Georgia. What we have learned, they have made an arrest of one person, Jose Antonio Ibarra, 26 years old, a man who is not, he says, a U.S. citizen, but was a resident there in Athens, did have an apartment. Basically said there was no relationship between he and the victim, Laken Riley, 22-year-old Laken Riley, the victim. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. That's what we've learned. In the chief of police there at UGA calling this really a crime of opportunity, an isolated incident. And certainly something that would cause alarm for anyone there on the campus. The good thing is here, they said they were able to use a number of things, investigative tools, including video, to connect that person to Laken Riley's death. Again, this is a story we will continue to follow. Atlanta News First, staying on top of every aspect of it. You can get up-to-the-minute notifications about new developments in this investigation on AtlantaNewsFirst.com.